Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to talk about a Sawzall, but not just any regular Sawzall. We're going to be talking about a Super Sawzall, okay? This one right here. We're going to go over it top to bottom. We're going to test it. We're going to get some numbers, so stick with us. All right, y'all, so this right here is Milwaukee's M18 FUEL SUPER SAWZALL, okay? The model number on this one is 2722-20. The reason I'm kind of pointing out this is a Super Sawzall is because Milwaukee does make an M18 FUEL Sawzall, and they also make a regular M18 Sawzall. This one right here is the M18 FUEL SUPER Sawzall, okay? I mean, come on, guys. How many different kinds and numbers and nectars and names and stuff can you make after Sawzall, okay? But anyways, the point is that this one is pretty much their flagship Super Sawzall, okay? So Sawzall is kind of like the Kleenex coined like time brand name type thing, right? So long time ago, Milwaukee kind of invented the reciprocating saw and called that the Sawzall. So right now when people say Sawzall, it just kind of refers to like a reciprocating saw, right? But the Sawzall is really Milwaukee's name for reciprocating saw. But people that have been around, it's kind of like, you know, hey, hand me that skill saw or whatever. People just know it's a, you know, it's a circular saw, right? Or hand me a Kleenex or something, right? It may not be a Kleenex brand, but you know, it's just like a tissue or whatnot. But anyways, Sawzall and reciprocating saws are kind of like the same thing if you're not too familiar with tools, but let's just go ahead and say this right here, since we're talking about the Milwaukee brand, we're just gonna call this a Sawzall reciprocating saw, okay? We use this for pretty much almost everything unless we are just looking for something fairly light, okay? Like if you're cutting up overhead, like small PVC pipes and stuff like that, we probably won't reach for this. But if you're like doing regular general remodeling, construction, or anything like that, this will generally be the one that we reach for. And I can easily say right now, this is probably, I feel like, the most comfortable one in terms of like power to weight ratio type thing. But we're gonna go over all that stuff. So anyways, before we get too far into it, let's go over the marketing hype, and then we'll bring you in closer and take a better look at it, all right? This right here is Milwaukee's M18 FUEL Brushless Super Sawzall, okay? It has a POWERSTATE Brushless Motor purposely built for the M18 FUEL Super Sawzall to provide power and performance of 15 amp corded reciprocating saw. I do kind of believe that after using it. I mean, we've used this a lot, and I can pretty much say it's better than that, I think. It's designed to be used with the REDLITHIUM high output HD 12.0 batteries, which provide more power and run cooler than standard REDLITHIUM packs. It has a variable speed trigger with a 5-speed dial, has an LED light for increased accuracy and visibility, QUIK-LOK blade clamp change for toolless blade changes, has REDLINK PLUS, pretty much almost all Milwaukee's M18 tools generally do, has an 1¼ inch stroke, instead of a 1/8 inch stroke. So most reciprocating saws on the market will be somewhere around 1/8. 1¼ inches is usually what the heavier duty or the higher capacity saws in a way may do. It does have a rafter hook, and the shoe is extendable and retractable, so you can kind of, you know, get the maximum life out of the blade. It's compatible with all M18 batteries, but like I said, it's designed to be used with the HD 12.0, and it has Orbital Action, which you can turn on and off. The length of the saw is roughly around 18.9 inches. It weighs in a whopping 8.8 pounds, okay? We already cover strokes per minute at around 3,000. And that's pretty much all you really get with this saw, all right? Let me bring you in closer and we'll take a better look at it. So this right here is pretty much the brand side of the saw, or in the case if you're holding it the left-hand side of the saw, okay? It's got Super Sawzall right here, and this pretty much black thing you see going on here is a rubber overmold that does feel really nice. Haven't had any issues with it. It's gotten wet, it's been in the sun, it's been in the car, in the trunk, or it's actually been in the trailer, and it's fine, okay? It hasn't deteriorated by any means or dry rotted or anything like that, okay? So this is just fine. It feels nice. I think one thing it also does help is helps dampen the vibration just a little bit, but it does help really well right there, okay? Right here, you can kind of see the fins to help cool the motor. Obviously branding right here, Milwaukee FUEL, okay? And this part right here is you see a variable speed dial. So this dial will go all the way from 5, highest speed. It'll kind of go to like 1, but it'll go a little bit past 1. Like for instance, if it's 1 right now and you turn it more, it goes a little bit past 1. So If you want to say it goes from 0 to 5, that's fine. I pretty much almost always use it on 5. There's been a couple times I've used it on 1, like if I'm cutting something delicate, I want it to be really like accurate or precise, and that helps. But this is a variable speed trigger, okay? So you can really dial in the speed that you want here, mainly because when you press the variable speed trigger in all the way and you have it set to 5, it'll obviously go to the highest possible speed, or 3000 no load speed, right? But if you set it to 1 and you press it all the way, it'll go to the highest speed allowed by that one setting. But not only that, it's entirely variable through that entire band, okay? So this variable speed dial, whatnot, is really like a band selection if you want to think of it that way. But it is really nice they did that because you do get a lot of control and accuracy with that, okay? This right here is not a safety lever, okay? This button right here that has to slide to unlock it is really an unlock button. So you have to slide it from this side, the right side, to the left side, right? So towards you, in a way to have it unlocked. It's not, there's no grip safety, it's not like a lever safety or any of that. It's literally just a, what do you call this? Variable speed trigger like that, okay? And while I'm showing you the trigger, sometimes on some tools, you'll see that since if you're wearing gloves or something like that, that the part, your middle finger, higher part of the glove will get stuck in between this trigger and the casing of the trigger, if you want to call it. But on this saw, I have not had an issue with that. So that obviously is nice, okay? And this saw, we've had it since it's been out, and we've used it pretty much all the time. This is pretty much the sawzall that we go to if we're literally cutting almost anything that is heavy duty or framing or construction type material, okay? It's not the saw that we go to all the time if we're cutting like something overhead or something very delicate or very light, but it is there, all right? Let's go around to the back real quick. So this is the standard M18 fuel type grip. If you're familiar with M18 tools, this is obviously going to feel very familiar. No real concerns there. While we have you on the back, go around to the back here. So this right here is where the battery slides on. Haven't had any issues with this. Every once in a while I'll clean it out because you'll see like dirt, sawdust, grime, or whatever get in there. We do use this sometimes outside, and you'll see like in the Georgia red clay type stuff, a lot of the red clay and stuff will really get in here, but you just wipe it down and haven't had any issues. I know on the latest generation, or the current generation of the M18 fuel sawzalls, they've added like metal guides here to reduce the battery sliding on and off wear. But on this one, I haven't had too many issues with it. But like I said, this is not a tool that we use every day, or almost even every day, but it is a widely, heavily used demo or like a remodel type tool. So it's not everyday use tool, but it does work pretty well. You'll see pretty much like on almost all the recip tools by any brand or whatnot, the battery's almost always like in a way twerking on here. So no real issues with that anyways. Bottom part of the saw, nothing really to see here. We'll go around to this part of the saw, or the right side of the saw if you're holding it, okay? Same Super Sawzall branding thing going on there. Part for the air, fins to cool the motor, and here is the rafter hook, okay? So the rafter hook, in a way, it's a little bit annoying because I kind of wish they made this part a little bit higher here, mainly because if you look at it here, not sure if it's going to come well out through the camera or whatnot, but there's some parts of the saw that are at a higher point than here, okay? Like for instance, this part right here, right? So if you try to get it on something that fits really tight right here, like a stack of 2x framing material or whatnot, it's a little bit annoying to really get to use. I mean, you can really like force it in there if you really want to, but that's just bad practice. But like I said, I kind of wish they moved it here because it really gets in the way of some of the stuff here. So usually if you are going to rafter hook it, just like rafter hook it on like some one piece of lumber, like 2 or 3 by lumber, but like I said, works just fine for most of its purposes, okay? So moving around to the business end of the saw. This right here is obviously the front part of the saw, okay? And you'll see that the shoe is tilting. It does tilt, and it does retract out or comes out and also retracts in, okay? And that part I do have to gripe about just a little bit because this is pretty much where most of the griping comes in, okay? So before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about this LED light right here. There's a light right here, and it works generally pretty well. Let's take a battery and drop it in. As soon as you put the battery in, the light will come on, okay? And most of the people will think that, oh, LED light on a recip, that sounds like a gimmick, okay? But if you're ever using this in a soffit, attic, overhead, crawl space or whatnot, that little light will be a very big, make a very big impact in whatever it is that you're cutting, because you can actually see something better, okay? So don't take that as a gimmick, it actually does work pretty well. So now to gripe about this shoe, okay? So like I said, the shoe retracts, tilts, retracts, and all that stuff. But as you can see on the bottom part of this, in order to do that, there is no knurling, protruded lever or some place to reach into to really get this lever outwards. So I've literally seen some people, or I've physically seen some people in a way, use like a screwdriver or the back of another recip blade or something like that to kind of, you know, get this thing off, right? Usually I just take the gloves off and, you know, use like a finger that you can really get into with some nails and kind of lift this lever, and you can really put the shoe in and out, and it does, like, in a way, almost dropped that mess, have a lot of places where you can kind of set it to, but it's not like we're, you know, adjusting the shoe pretty much all the time or changing blades all day. But I mean, it is a little bit annoying to adjust the shoe. Okay, so my biggest gripe about this saw right here is pretty much the blade change system, okay? So this right here is what we would call Milwaukee's flagship tool, right? This is their Super Sawzall. It even has super in the name, okay? And this blade change system is not necessarily the best, okay? So in order to do that, this is not a quick change blade system, meaning it doesn't stay, the lock doesn't stay open. So it's literally in closed state, okay? And in order to put the blade in, you do have to turn this lock, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, this lock, blade lock system, right, all the way. And it's not like it even stays unlocked too, right? You have to turn it all the way, put this blade in, and it's fine, okay? So once it's in, it has never come out. There's been no issues with it, okay? But it is a little bit challenging to get in, mainly because sometimes, like for instance, if you are using it, let's see if I can put it in a better spot, and you try to, the blade holder is all the way protruded back in, okay? And even if you have small hands or thin fingers or whatever you want to call it, sometimes it's so back all the way in when you stop using it that you have to try to pull it out. And sometimes you can't pull it out because like the position that it's in, right? So what you end up having to do is you put the blade in, or not the blade, you put the battery in, and then you like try to stop it right where it comes out, just like that. And most people, I will say, do not take the battery off when they're putting the blade in, okay? This is just as a safety. And I try to, but sometimes, you know, when you're working fast or whatnot, not everybody does, but you should definitely take it off. So that one, I can generally get it out in like 1 or 2 shots, right? Like right here. But sometimes I've seen people struggle like 3 or 4 times, just like triggering or feathering the trigger to get it out in this out state, okay? So you do, once it gets out, you can put it in and turn it, right? So like I said, it's not a very good system, mainly because, like for instance, sometimes it's all the way protruded in, and when it's in, it's going to be difficult to get the head of it out to a part where you can turn it. And even if you do turn it, it doesn't stay unlocked, right? So it's not a quick change system. And when you're done using it and the blade is super hot by whatever means, right? It, like, you do turn it, right? And it's not like it falls out or pops out. You do have to hold it and take it out, then let it go, okay? So it's a two-handed operation and it's not that great. There's some saws on the market that have like a lever or a lever or something like that that's here, right? You flip the lever, you put it in, put it down, works just fine. And some of those saws right now, you can either put this in this way or sideways or upside down or whatnot, or whatever angle you want to put it in on. But on this one, can't really do that, okay? So that's what I'm saying is a little bit annoying about this tool, because like I said, it's the flagship tool, top tier model, best of the recip lineup or whatnot, okay? And it can't do that. And that's a little bit of annoying. Blade change system, very annoying, all right? So that's pretty much a close-up view of the saw. In case I haven't covered it, this right here is where you would set the orbital action. Okay, so this saw does have orbital action, and we'll talk about that in just a second. If you have the pointer pointed towards the back or the trigger, it means that the orbital action is not engaged. If you have it pointed towards the head or where the blade is, it means the orbital action is engaged. And there is little emblems or signs to tell you that's pretty much what's going on. If you don't know what orbital action means, so generally a sawzall or recip saw will go forward and backwards motion like this. If you engage orbital action, what generally happens is it exaggerates the stroke, right? So for instance, instead of going back and forth, it'll go something like this, okay? This is overly exaggerated, but I'm just trying to make a point here. So it really helps cut a little bit faster. The downside to that is it increases the vibration that the user is feeling a lot, okay? And that's sometimes, or almost all the time, that's not very good. But every once in a while, you want to use orbital action because if you want to make the cut faster or whatnot, right? But you don't use orbital action in, like, if you're cutting something hard like masonry or like steel or metals or stuff like that. You do not use orbital action there. It's really designed for use in softer materials, generally wood. So the best place to use it, like I said, if you're cutting wood, is like pruning, right? If you have a pruning blade on here and you're pruning up trees and branches or whatnot, that's probably the best place to use orbital action, okay? But for me, most of the time, it stays in non-orbital action mode, all right? So let's go ahead and talk about the performance just a little bit before we go ahead and talk about the track. So this is obviously the first series, or the first video in the series of the recent series or whatnot. So we'll have to go ahead and talk about the track just a little bit. So we've came to this Sawzall after tinkering with a handful of Sawzalls, right? So we grew up using, I think it was like a corded like Craftsman. I think it was like black and gray back then or whatnot. Then we had another saw. I'm trying to remember what the brand of it was, but it was like a tan sandish color with some black on. I think is it Tiger Saw thing? I can't remember, but we called it a Tiger Saw back then. Maybe it's a model by Portal Cable. I don't know. The point is that we eventually used a bunch of corded saws and battery power saws, and eventually now this is kind of our go-to saw. The reason I'm pointing that out is because I'm trying to say the performance of this is actually really good. This is not a sponsored video. Milwaukee did not send this to us. Nobody sent this to us. We bought this when it came out and we've always started using it, okay? But to convey that performance, we're gonna need to get some numbers on the track, okay? So the track pretty much right now is two 2x8s that built a header with the sandwich 3x8 OSB, or 3/8 inch OSB, okay? You're technically supposed to use 1/2 inch plywood, but we didn't have 1/2 inch plywood laying around, and we just wanted to go ahead and get the testing started or whatnot. So we put 3/8 inch OSB with two 2x8s that are sandwiched like that, and they're not adhered by any means. There's no glue or screws or nails by any means like that in this setup, because mainly we're using the clamps to hold them. But we did embed 12 16D nails into the header that the saw will cut through, okay? So the test really is the saw cutting through that header 4 times, okay? The reason we did 4 times is to kind of get 2 and 2. So 2 times the saws will cut through the header with a 10-pound weight attached to here. So I just found some random Craftsman jack that we had laying around, put a string on it, and it's gonna be literally just pulling here. We weighed it, it comes in right around like 10 pounds almost. A little more than 10, barely. So 2 times it'll cut through straight drop pressure with the weight, and 2 times will be the user trying to push the saw as fast as it will go, okay? Don't do that in real life or on the job or in practice or whatnot. This is literally just trying to figure out how much you can push the saw as fast as it can go. Usually just let the blade do the work, okay? But that's pretty much what's gonna be, and we're gonna take the average of that, and then that's how we're really gonna get the numbers, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at the performance cuts, and then we'll be right back. All right, so I hope y'all caught those numbers because those numbers went by really fast. I'm just kidding. If you guys didn't catch it, we'll go ahead and recap them real quick, okay? So the first run with HD 12.0 comes in at 11.09 seconds. Second run comes in at 11.36 seconds. Third run, user involved test, 9.57 seconds. Fourth run, 7.48 seconds. Average those 4 runs, the number comes in at 9.88 seconds. Wow, okay? It's in first place. Of course it has in first place because this is the first saw to run the test, right? So I know someone's gonna ask, what's the difference between the orbital action and non-orbital action, okay? So we ran the same test with a brand new blade and a HD 12.0 amp hour battery, and the first run comes in at 11.29 seconds. Second run comes in at 10.29 seconds. Third run comes in at 7.54 seconds. That's the user involved test. Fourth run, 8.25 user involved test, pressing as hard as you can go. Average those 4 runs comes at 9.34 seconds, okay? So that average is better than with the orbital action off, okay? Like I said, for me, generally I just use it with orbital action off because as a user, unless you're like timing stuff or whatnot, you're not gonna be able to tell that much of a difference except for the vibrations that you're gonna be feeling, okay? So it does help a little bit, but not too much. That's almost, what is that? Like almost a second-ish, 0.5, no, almost like a half a second difference, maybe a little bit more than that through that test. But if you do like over a longer test or longer cut or whatnot, it'll probably make much of a difference. Anyways, the point is that orbital action does help, okay? Numbers do say that or do prove it. Let's go ahead and see what the saw performance run comes in if you use a XC6 amp or high output 6 amp hour battery, okay? First run comes in at 12.09 seconds. Second run comes in at 13.01 seconds. Third run comes in at 10.47 seconds. Fourth run comes in at 10.43 seconds. The 2 user involved tests were obviously faster because you're pressing the tool as fast as it can go, okay? So the average of those 4 runs with the orbital action off is 11.50 seconds, okay? Wow. So what is that? That's probably close to like 2-ish seconds slower on average than with the HD 12.0 amp hour battery, okay? So when the marketing material says it's designed to be used with the HD 12.0 amp hour battery, it really was, okay? It's 2 seconds faster on the test track, okay? So I know someone's gonna ask, what happens when you use it with a not high output battery, okay? So we use it with a XC5 amp hour battery, and let's go take a look at those numbers, okay? This is with the orbital action off. With the orbital action off, the first run comes in at 14.29 seconds. Second run, 14.52 seconds. Third run, user involved test, 14.19 seconds. Fourth run, 12.47 seconds. So if you take the average of those 4 runs, comes in at 13.87 seconds. Wow, that is, what is that? Like a little bit more than 2 seconds slower than with the 6 amp hour battery, high output 6.0. So what did we learn from this? Marketing material says use with HD 12.0, that's what it's designed for. So the 6 amp hour battery is 2-ish seconds on average slower through this test than the 12.0, and the 5.0 is 2 slower than that. So that means this is generally 4 seconds slower through 2x8 header cutting test with nails embedded, 4 seconds slower than this, okay, than the 12.0, okay? So will the 5.0 work and get the job done? Depending on what job you're doing, right? It probably can't get done, but it will work. It will work with the tool, okay? But that's pretty good numbers, right? So we're gonna have to go and get other tools or other recips or whatnot and try to test them and try to figure out what those numbers come out to be to see how great this saw really is or how super the saw really is, right? But just by using a lot of the tools or whatnot or recips on the market, at least the ones that people that I work with or people that I know or whatnot, I can kind of say this one is probably gonna be near the top for a while, I think. We haven't used every single one on the market, but we do know other tradesmen or other people, right, that use recips, right? So just trying stuff out really helps. But anyways, I hope this video has helped you guys out, right? You saw some of the variants in some of the numbers, right? So that's probably because we used 2x8 framing lumber to do that, and most of y'all probably know that framing lumber is really not very well quality controlled. All you people who are buying it from like general like lumber yards like Home Depot or Lowe's or whatnot, you're probably thinking there's no quality control on that, right? Because some of the stuff is so bent, you could probably, you know, use it as like a hockey stick or something. Anyways, the point is that some of the variances really come in primarily because, you know, the lumber that you're cutting is going to be a little bit different, right? That's kind of why we're trying to take the average across 4 cuts. It will hopefully help to average or balance that out a little bit, but there may be little idiosyncrasies or whatnot, but hopefully the averages and stuff like that will help it balance out, okay? So I didn't mention previously already, the tests are going to be completed using the Milwaukee Axe blade right here. This is a 9-inch 5 TPI blade, model 5026, and it's designed to be used with wood with nails, okay? And this header stuff that we're cutting has 12 16D nails in it, so it's designed for that. All right, so like I said, hope this video's helped you guys out and it's been a little bit informative. If you're already in the Super Sawzall, definitely use the AC12.0 if you want maximum performance, okay? Stay tuned for more episodes or more videos like this on resets and stuff like that. If you have anything you guys want to question or whatnot, let me know. But otherwise, have a great day and we'll see you guys next time.